So what you're going to do is you're going to look at this 21 out here, which is my divisor. How many times does 21, and don't anybody pick up their calculators, how many times does 21 go into 67?
Twice.
3.
Oh yeah, 3 times.
3 times, right? Okay. So I'm going to put the 3 up here. Then 3 times 21 is 63. And then you subtract it. So that gives me 4. And then what? Bring down the 2. And then how many times does 21 go into 42? Twice. 2 times 21 is 42. So my remainder is 0, which means that 32 and 21 are factors of 672. Remember that? A little bit? Like 3rd grade, 4th grade?
What about there? Are we doing remainder?
Well, you're gonna have we're gonna divide instead of doing this. We're gonna divide factors into polynomials.
We did that with 2.
Huh?
From 42.
2 times 21 is 42.
No.
So I subtracted. So you
You
subtract.
bring down.
Bring down the 2.
And then,
So I subtracted. I gave you the 4, and then I'm gonna bring down this 2.
So we
Okay.
put 14.
So then I figure out how many times do I multiply 21 to get 42? 2 times. So 2 times 21 is 42. So then I can subtract it again, and that gives me 2. All right, let's do another one. Let's do another one together, actually.
14.
Okay, so I'm going to look here at the smallest possible one. How many times does 5 go into 7? 1 time. 1 times 5 is 5. Then you subtract. 7 minus 5 is 2. Then you bring down, if you have anything else over here, I'm going to bring that down. How many times does 5 go into 22? 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. So my remainder is 2. Okay?
You put 0.2.
No. You don't have to do that part. All I want you to be able to do is recognize what a remainder is. That's all you need to do. Okay? All right. So let's talk about some vocabulary. What's the one thing I know you know what out of these words? Remainder, quotient, divisor, dividend.
Divisor is the thing in the front.
Good. Divisor is the thing in the front. So that's 5. 5 my divisor. And what other one do you know? Quotient. What's my quotient?
14.
14, right? Because quotient means the answer to a division problem.
Remainder 2.
Remainder's 2. So what's left? What's the dividend? Texas Raw Dell's back today.
I love it.
Okay. So if I use any of these words, if I say divisor or quotient or remainder, I don't want you to look at me like I have 3 heads. You need to know what those mean, okay? Are we good? Yeah. Alright, are you ready?
Are you ready?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to set this up just like we did a problem with whole numbers or integers, okay? So I'm going to write x minus 3 on the outside. That's my divisor. And then I'm going to put my polynomial on the inside. What? 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus x plus 6.
It's okay if we check out.
All right. Hang in there at least through the first step, okay? So you're going to look at, I'm just going to look at my first term here, the x, I'm going to look at my first term here. Okay, that's all I'm going to concentrate on because there's a lot of stuff going on in this problem, right? How many times can I multiply, what can I multiply times x to get 6x cubed? What can I multiply times x to get 6x cubed?
6.
6x squared. Good. Okay? Because the whole point of this is try to eliminate these as we go. Okay? Now here's the part that you're not going to like. Okay? When I multiply the 6x squared, I have to multiply the 6x squared times the entire factor, which is x minus 3. Okay? So 6x squared, which is going to be 6x cubed minus 18x squared. Okay, I have to multiply it times this entire factor. So that's what I'm going to write down here. So 6x cubed minus 18x squared. That was already up here. This is where I got the 18 over here. So I did 6 times. Okay. So then what's the operation now? What do I do down? Subtract, right?
By what? Also by 19x squared?
No, we're going to subtract this whole thing right here. So what's 6x cubed minus 6x cubed? Nothing, right? That goes away. Now, be careful. What's negative 19x squared minus negative 18x squared?
1x.
Negative 1x, right?
Yeah.
Squared. Now I've got to bring down plus x plus 6. Now we're going to do the same thing. What can I multiply times x to get rid of negative x squared?
Negative, positive x squared, or negative x squared?
Well, I already have an x, so what do I have to put up here?
Minus.
Minus x. Well, this right here is already an x, right? Because we're going to multiply.
Yeah, but
Because
don't you want
x
the
times
square
x.
too?
Well, but x times x is
X
the
squared.
x squared that I want. Okay. All right. You want me to keep going,
Yeah.
or do you want me to show you an easier way?
Oh my gosh, there's the easier way?
But if I do the easier way, you have to trust me and follow the process. Okay? No.
Or you can see the rest of this one.
Or
and
we can
this
keep
one.
doing it this way.
Can you keep doing this one and then do this one?
Sure.
Yeah, let's see what this looks like.
Okay.
Let's see what it looks like in the end.
All right. So I'm going to do negative x. And remember that I've got to do negative x times this whole factor, x minus 3. So that gives me negative x squared plus 3x.
Where'd you get what?
Remember,
Because
you
you're
said x, right? And I need to multiply times this whole factor. So negative,
Oh, and then negative x times.
now we're going to put this down here, right? So negative x squared plus 3x. Now, and the reason why I keep putting this in parentheses is the operation is subtraction. It's subtracting the whole thing. That's where that kind of gets tricky. Okay, negative x squared minus negative x squared.
That's nothing.
That's nothing, right? And then what's x minus negative 3?
Negative 3.
X minus 3x.
Negative
Negative.
3x squared.
All that, right? Because this is just 1 minus 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Okay? Now I gotta bring the 6 down. Alright, what can I multiply times x to get rid of that negative 2x?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. But remember that I've got to multiply it times the whole thing, that whole factor. Okay. So negative 2x plus 6. Remember, I'm subtracting the whole thing.
Oh, then the rest is just 0.
So that goes away completely, right? Negative 2x minus negative 2x is 0, and 6 minus 6 is 0. So
The remainder is 0.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty intense, huh?
Can I go get some water, please?
Yeah. Okay, but actually you're not done.
Oh my.
Because I have this 6x squared minus x minus 2. That needs to be factored. Because the whole point of doing this is finding all of the zeros. Okay, so then you would still need to factor this 6x squared minus x minus 2. Okay, but I'm not gonna do that right now because I want to show you the other way. All right, let's go on to the next page. If you like that method, you are welcome to continue to use that method. Okay. All right, so this is called synthetic division. I've given you a step action table. On the left hand gives you the steps to take written out. On the right hand side, okay, are the actions. So each step. You have got to follow the steps step by step by step, or this is not going to make sense and it's not going to be right. Okay? So the first one, it says make sure that the polynomial is in standard form. Is this polynomial in standard form? No, it's not. So what is in standard form?
Standard form on this first, guys. Come on. Yeah, the highest degree.
And make sure you carry the sign. I'm going to write that here. All I did was write it in standard form. Also notice that when we wrote in standard form that this is in descending order and you're not missing any exponents. 3, 2, 1, no exponents. Okay, does everybody see that? I'm not missing an exponent. 3, 2, 1, no exponents. Okay? Alright, so the first step says write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. If a term is skipped, write 0. Did we skip anything? No, we did, so we don't have to worry about that part right now. So what are coefficients? Number in front of the variable, right? Okay, so write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. Okay, so what are the coefficients? 6, negative 19, 1, all I did, watch your signs, please. You need to carry the sign down, Jose. Stop talking to Ashley. She needs to concentrate. Okay, now it says, reverse the sign and write the factor to the left. Okay, it says reverse the sign of the factor. So if this is x minus 3, what do I need to write to the left?
Just the sign. So if it's minus 3, then it's, that's it. You see that?
If not listed in the factor, you're just going to write the number. This only works if they give you, this is a factor. Okay? Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to combine those two steps together. I've got 3 on the outside, and then I have 6 minus, or negative 19, 1, and 6.
How do we get the
How do we get this 3?
Yeah.
In the problem, it told us what the factor was, so if it gives you a factor, you have to reverse the sign of the number and write it on the outside. Okay? Alright. The first step is to bring down the first coefficient underneath this line. Bring down the first coefficient. 3 is not a coefficient, it's 0 or less. Okay? You're going to multiply the divisor and write it under the next coefficient. So this is very similar to the step that we were just doing before. We're going to multiply 3 times 6. What does that give me? 18. 3 times 6, and then you're going to write it below the next coefficient, which is 18. Okay. Going, the next step, okay, is to add the next coefficient. So the step here is addition. I'm going to add. Negative 19 plus 18 is, because we did 3 times 6 is 18. So negative 1. Then you have to repeat. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Write that under the next coefficient. and then add. 1 plus negative 3 is negative 2. Then do it again. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 6 plus negative 6 is 0. No, well, you're done with this step. Okay?
Wait, with the arrow going up towards like 18 and negative 3, what do you multiply by 3?
Whatever's here on this outside, this is the divisor. So whatever you're multiplying, so I go here, 3 times 6, and then I write that answer here. And then I add. And then 3 times negative 1, I write that answer here, and then add. And then multiply, and then add. So you're multiplying and then adding. You're multiplying and then adding.
Mama.
Huh?
Multiply, add, mama.
As easy to think of. Why did I subtract this? Huh? Because it's negative 6. Yeah, you added, but you have to add it, but it depends on the sign. Just like here, I added, but because that 19 is negative, it's really subtraction. All right. So the next step is we need to rewrite this. Yep. Polynomial.
So,
The coefficient up here.
is this negative 2 times 3?
Yes.
All right. So the next step is to write the polynomial again. Oh, we got one. Okay. All right. So remember that we started with a what degree polynomial?
6. Positive.
3, right? 3. Okay. But we just factored out.
Yeah, I was like, how do you get to negative 1?
Okay, this right here we're adding, right? But what happens when I add a negative number? Negative 19 plus 18. That part you can do in your calculator. Negative 19 plus 18, the signs are different, so I'm subtracting. I keep the sign of the larger number. Or just do it in the calculator. Okay? Same thing here. This is addition, but this 6 is negative, so 6 plus negative 6 is 0. Okay? Okay, so I started with a 3rd degree polynomial, but remember I just factored out an x minus 3. Which means that my polynomial now is going to start with x squared. It's 1 less. Okay? And these right here just represent the coefficients of my new polynomial. So 6x squared minus x minus 2. You always do 1 less the degrees. We just factored something out, okay? Okay, is that not what we got over here? Okay, we started here with x cubed, okay? I just factored out this factor, okay? So you're always going to start 1 less than the highest degree. Okay, so instead of x cubed, because I factored out the x minus 3, I'm starting with x squared, and each of these numbers represent coefficients. Remember in the very first step, we took our polynomial and all we did was write all the coefficients? Well, now I'm making you put it back into the polynomial. So I have the coefficient of 6, negative 1, negative 2. Huh?
X and 2.
Okay. It's going to take a few times and then it'll be very simple. Because it's a process and it's the same process over and over again.
Oh, so you said. Oh, so that's actually.
All right. But you're not done. Okay, now this is where we're going to factor.
What is that from?
Billy
All right, so I need to factor this. Okay, because remember again, the whole point of this is to find the zeros. Okay, so you need to factor this, please, right now. Everybody factor it. Everybody's factoring a different way, so I don't want to factor it up here on the board. Please factor this. 2x plus 1 3x minus 2. Okay? If you did not get those factors, then you need to stay after school. I'm so sick of talking about factors. You have a question? You know what you did? Okay. But there's actually one more factor. What's the other factor? What's the other factor? They gave us a factor in the beginning, so other factor is x minus 3.
So it'll be.
Okay, so then what are my zeros? X equals negative 1/2, 2 over 3,
And
3.
3.
Okay, so don't forget the factor that they gave us in the beginning. This is why this you cannot fake this. If you do not know how to factor, you are in big trouble.
Will you always give us like -3?
On the test, yes, but you could find it by the calculator a factor and then try to do synthetic division. Okay, if you flip the page, it says given the polynomial and one of its factors, find the zeros of the polynomial. Okay, so this is the problem we're going to do, but we're going to do it on the step action table, okay? Yeah, we're going to do it together. Okay, so our polynomial was x cubed minus x squared minus 5x minus 3. And then my factor, Andy, was x plus 1. You're talking while I'm talking. Alright, so the first step says make sure the polynomial is in standard form. Is it in standard form? Yes. So we're going to go ahead and write. Am I missing any terms? Yeah, you write it on your pink sheet of paper. Are we missing any terms? 3, 2, 1, no variable. We're not missing any terms. Okay? Jose, are you writing? Okay. It says write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. Write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. If any terms are missing or skipped, write 0. We're not missing any terms. Okay? So what are my coefficients?
-1, -5, -5, -3.
Watch your signs. You've got to write the signs.
Wait, what about the exponents?
The exponents are just guiding us on what order to put them in right now. Okay? I'll think about it. All right. Reverse the sign and write the factor to the left. So they gave me a factor, so I'm going to reverse the sign. So what am I going to write here on the outside? -1. -1. Now I'm going to combine those two steps together. -1, and then 1, -1, -5, -3.
Then you bring the x, right?
I'm not doing anything with the x's yet. It says bring down the first coefficient.
So you do -1 times negative.
No, hold on.
Or you just bring
Yeah,
down 1.
bring down the first coefficient. Bring down the first coefficient. My first coefficient was 1, so I'm going to bring it down. Now multiply the divisor and write it under the next coefficient. -1 times 1 is
-1.
-1. This step is multiplication, and then I write it under the next coefficient. Now it says add.
Remember, Mama.
-2.
-1 plus -1 is, now what?
Now you
Multiply again. -1 times -2 is
-1.
Negative times a negative is
Positive, so 1.
+2, so it'll be -2.
So then -5 minus 2.
plus, we're adding down -2, or sorry, -5
So
plus
that's -3.
-3. And then multiply. -1 times -3 is
1.
multiply.
and then add.
It's 0.
Okay, so here's the next step. You need to look to see what the degree of your polynomial is, which is 3. Okay, so you're going to start one less than that.
2.
So I'm going to have, instead of x cubed, I'm going to have x squared. These right here are the coefficients of my polynomial. So I have 1x squared, and then I'm going to write it in descending order. Minus 2x minus 3.
And then we factor it.
Now factor this.
Oh. Do we put the parentheses right between the two?
Andy.
Oh, you made that up.
Okay. Hush. Do this.
What I do?
Do that. Huh? That's Jose too.
No,
Oh!
he's
I
not.
thought we could. I thought we wanted to go with the slide.
Factor quickly because we have 2 more things to do. Go, go, go.
So we look for negative 2? Or just 2?
What's the term in the middle?
2x. Negative 2x.
So minus 2. Always carry that sign with it.
Negative 1 and 3.
Negative 3 and 1.
Other way.
Factors. What are the factors?
X
In close.
What?
X
Minus
minus
3.
3 and
Oh.
Signs.
what's my other factor? There's one more.
2x.
Right? What we started with, x plus 1. What do we call this?
A double root.
Good, double root. Okay. So what does x equal? What are my zeros?
Negative 1 and 3. No. What's the comma?
The comma is just to show you what the factor is. Okay, so if it's written in standard form, we're going to write it here in the box. X cubed minus 3x plus 2. And what was the factor that they gave me? X minus 1. That's not part of your polynomial. That's the factor.
Oh.
Okay. Good question. Is there a term that's skipped?
No.
What term is skipped? X squared. Look. X cubed, x. Oh, there's no x squared. Okay? And then there's an x and there's a constant. That's what this means, okay? So it says write the coefficients of the polynomial to the right. If a term is skipped, write 0. So what's the first coefficient? 1. Then what am I going to write?
0.
0. Then 2. When you do this at home, you need to be reading the instructions too. Read and then do the action. It says reverse the sign and write the factor to the left.
1.
1. I'm going to put them all together. So x equals 1, 1, and negative 2.
Oh, okay.
Anybody have questions?
Okay, I got it.
And Wednesday, December 16th.
The source is
Are you